National Puerto Rican Bar Association, established to meet the question on a national basis, what is Puerto Rico? A nation, a state, or something in between? Join the conversation every week right here.
Good morning. Good morning.
I am Professor Tony Suarez, and with me, the host of Equal Justice, this podcast of the National Puerto Rican Bar Association Conference. And with me is my co-host, Steve Alsina. Steve is not a lawyer. He's actually here to be the voice of the people, to keep us lawyers honest as we keep
clean
the conversation. And if we get too lost in the woods, he knows how to stop us and try to get us to keep us focused, because the program is not meant for lawyers. It's meant for everyone else to follow what lawyers are doing. And, I find my experience in radio in the past, as I've done a radio with Steve over many, many years. We lawyers talk sometimes so complicated, people don't understand us. And I thought that it would best if we have someone with the heart of the people, the voice of the people, adding to it. So the National Puerto Rican Bar Association Conference, this is our second edition. And what we're trying to do is put together a conversation, a national conversation about the issue of Puerto Rico and the legal issues that are affecting us. And so today we have a real special edition, because we have the president of the Puerto Rican Bar Association of New York, Lillian Mosely, a practicing attorney, and the president of the Puerto Rican Bar Association of New York, established in 1957. All right, and so we're going to be talking about that as well. And with us as well is the former president of the Puerto Rican Bar Association of Florida. She is currently the coordinator of the Puerto Rican Bar Association National Conference Moot Court Competition, and we'll be talking about what the Moot Court Competition is all about. And with us is a great friend, Marie Masson, who's an attorney, a practicing attorney, as indicated, former president of the Puerto Rican Bar Association of Florida. She's a mom who's got a gorgeous daughter who goes to college. You can't believe it. She looks like a teenager herself, but actually she has a wonderful family, and I know her for many years. I was indicating off the air that Marie was always my right-hand person. All the stuff that we used to do when I was president of the Puerto Rico Bar. She's experienced. She's a hard worker. She's a great lawyer, and she's really taken on the task of managing the moot court competition, which is going to be a big, big thing. So let us talk. Let's talk with us. Let's start off with Lillian. Lillian, you are a practicing attorney in New York, president of the Puerto Rican Bar Association, and I would like to discuss with you this question of the status of Puerto Rico. It's clear. All of us are very clear. No bar association takes a position on whether Puerto Rico should be a state or should be an independent nation or should go. We all agree that we must have a vote on this. There's got to be some way that Puerto Ricans on the island can have an opportunity to determine what their future is. Because for those of you who don't understand, and I know Steve and I have had several shows that we discussed this, you can have 100%. You can have 100% vote for statehood on the island, or 100% vote for independence on the island. So what? They can't vote. They have no power without Congress. Without Congress involving with a bill, and that's when we have Darren Soto on the show in the future, Congressman Soto. He will be discussing the bill. It gives the opportunity for people on the island to make a choice. Those of us who live on the mainland already have full citizenship, yet we can vote, but we have to leave the island in order to exert that. That creates all sorts of other problems, and we can discuss those, demographic problems, economic problems, all sorts of things happen because Puerto Rico has no future unto itself, and they cannot control his budget. So Lillian, I was wondering if you could discuss what you think of the people in New York, where they are on this issue, because I know it's always been controversial. We had Nydia Velasquez on one side, and you had all the different voices. So tell us what's going on over there.
So, first of all, thank you, Anthony, for inviting me. I'm very happy to be here. Thank you to Steve and Marie for, being part of this important conversation. But before we begin, I do want to give a little disclaimer as the attorney and bar president that I am. And I want to make clear that although I currently serve as the president of the Puerto Rican Bar Association of New York, the views and opinions expressed during this discussion are solely my own and do not reflect the official position of the Puerto Rican Bar Association of New York, its board, or its membership.
Oh, sorry. She very good.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, the disclaimer is necessary, right? Because
I understand.
I think it's important that we talk about this. And I think the moot court competition is really going to provide us with what practicing attorneys and attorneys to be will come up with, right? As far as New York, and my position is that we have to understand the historical context first, as to how we got here and why Puerto Rico doesn't have a voice. We understand that it's all politics. What's happening behind the scenes? What's the purpose of not having a vote? Why Puerto Ricans do not have a vote. I had to do a little bit of research because I wasn't going to just come on and say, oh, they should have a vote and that's that. But I understand that we're going back to 1898, right? When Puerto Rico became a possession of the United States after the Spanish-American War, and when Spain ceded the island of the U.S. under the Treaty of Paris. This was not, if fairness were to talk, this was not fair, right? But we're here over 100 years later talking about why history hasn't caught up to its current status. Now, Puerto Ricans weren't granted U.S. citizenship until 1917 through the Jones-Shafroth Act, right? And Puerto Rico did not gain the right to elect its own governor until 1947. Mm-hmm. So that's not that long ago, right? So my personal opinion is that there should probably be a referendum. Puerto Ricans should be able to come to the ballot and make a vote as to what they want to do. Do they want to separate themselves from the United States? That's not for me to decide. And that's certainly not for Puerto Ricans in New York to decide, right? It's for those on the island to decide what they want to do. So I believe a referendum would be in order for them to come to the ballot and decide what they want for their island. So,
Marie, so let me ask you at this point. Marie Mason, I said earlier, she's a practicing attorney, former president of the Puerto Rican Bar Association of Florida, was involved in all the moot court competitions that we did many years ago. By the way, we can add this. This is the little picture here, this to the stage. These are the 4 Puerto Rican moot court competitions that we did in the past. All right. And those are legacy coins. I mean, having been ex-military, we love the legacy coins. And this is the one that is coming up for this year, the 2026, the 5th National Moot Court Competition. So Marie, talk to us about the concept of why we even entertain the moot court, what it does, how it is. Tell us about it.
Hi. First of all, good morning to everyone, and thank you for agreeing to participate today, Lillian. And I really, this has been an inspiration for us for many, many years since Tony was president of the PRBA. He's the one that had the first initiative, excuse me, for the first moot court competition. Sorry. This year, we plan to revisit the status of Puerto Rico through our moot court competition. And the purpose mainly is to inspire law students of every walk of life. But I'd like to think that students that have a Puerto Rican background or a connection to Puerto Rico will be greatly inspired to force the study of the background of Puerto Rico's current political situation and colonial status. It'll force the study, and people who attend as spectators to the moot court competition will learn as a result of the students discussing the different laws that have resulted in Puerto Rico's current status. And it'll hopefully also inspire them when they become leaders in the future as young attorneys to stand in the forefronts of defending civil rights for Puerto Ricans in the island. I think we are riding in the tailcoats of a very important social movement created by the Bad Bunny awareness and participation in the Super Bowl earlier this year. He has become a global sensation, and aside from the entertainment value of what he does and the cultural value of what he does, it has certainly brought attention to our culture as Puerto Ricans, especially here in the diaspora, because we have seen people's reaction to our culture, and they're definitely interested in visiting the island. A lot of people have been surprised to know that we are a 21st century colony. And so hopefully by bringing attention to these issues, the students will continue to fight for this very raw civil rights issue that deserves all of the attention that we could bring into it.
So I know, Steve, I'm reading your mind. Okay, I know. Steve is saying, Tony, this issue has been going on since since 1968, right? We had the 4-Acre Act. You had a whole bunch of stuff. They made citizens in 1917. We've had 6 or 7 plebiscites on the island already. What are you guys doing? You're not going to change anything.
What makes you think
do this? Okay.
And what makes you think, with all due respect, ladies and the public and Tony, that the people in Puerto Rico want to change what they have, okay, right now in this day and age? Because I understand back in the past, this was very solid. There was a hard issue, the Puerto Rican, let's get this done. But we know that we can't get nothing done without the United States giving us the votes to be able to have election that we can actually run ourselves without having the United States telling us what to do. Not only that, do you think the United States is going to let go of the thousands of millions of dollars that they're making right now with us? The debt that Puerto Ricans have, and I was born in New York, but I love Puerto Rico. And I'm with Tony in this subject. And I'm giving you the non lawyer version of how some of the people I encounter feel.
So let me answer that question, because that's why, okay? The answer to that question, Steve, is that we have a constitution that started with all, the Declaration of Independence, all people created equal, right? All people created equal. We had a revolution over taxation. We talked about all people being equal, and yet in this country, we have citizens who cannot vote. They can be sent to Afghanistan to die for everyone, right? They pay taxes on the island, but they have no voice in our Constitution. So the question, is it right? Is it morally right? Is it correct to have people in that status? And so all of us say we have to resolve this. They either become, listen, it's like como una corteja. You're either going to get married but you can't be a corteja. You can't be in that position. I'll come visit you sometimes. No, you're either in or you're out, so that you have equality with everybody else. That's why we have to do it now. As Marie very astutely pointed out, this cannot be done without having help from other places. So if we're able to, in the future, obviously this is not a long term, it's not going to happen tomorrow. Plus it's a moot court. It's not real litigation, right? It's practice litigation. So we're not going to accomplish anything. We're not going to change anything, except that we might change minds. And that is the objective. Because if we get people from Ohio, and we get people from Montana, and we get people from Utah, and for the first time, they look at the territorial clause, because Mary and Lillian can both tell you, We took constitutional law in school, and I know we never touched the territorial clause. Okay, so no, that doesn't happen. You don't learn anything about Puerto Rico territorial clause. How is it possible that a country dedicated to freedom and individuals can own a colony? And so there's a whole history to this, and people have to learn about it. So what we're hoping with Moot Court, as Marie has pointed out, is that we develop a cadre over time. And Lillian, I don't know if you've had this experience. You go into a courtroom and judges ask you whether or not Puerto Ricans are citizens. I mean, I've had that in federal court. What money do they use in Puerto Rico? Things like that. Do I need a passport to go there? And this is educated people who don't know about Puerto Rico, much less the rest of the people. And then when you have a baseball team that competes in an international Olympics or so, people are confused as to the status of what Puerto Rico is. If we don't teach, and if we as lawyers, in my opinion, don't take that position in the forefront to teach, then the country is lost. And so that, here I am preaching, of course.
I want to address something that Steve said, like, what do you think you're going to accomplish? Is anything ever going to change? And we know it is frustrating to the history and see 7 referenda have been taking place, right? Have already happened. The most recent one in 2024, with the result of 57% of the island choosing statehood over other options. Of course, those are kind of useless exercises until Congress exercises its power to grant us what we need to vote for our status or to change our status, right? With the cutting of the voting rights that's currently happening, the odds are very slim that the issue of Puerto Rico will take precedence, certainly not under the current administration, but we have to keep spreading the seeds because we don't know when the next congressional leaders are going to emerge or where they're going to come from. They could come from the island. They could come from the territorial U.S. because they have that understanding, that connection to Puerto Rico, and that inspiration to do something. The next civil rights attorneys that are going to be at the top of the country could well come from our competition. I'm trying to be humble here, but I can dream, right? Yeah. You never know where these leaders are coming from. And the least we could do is to keep this hope and this dream and the interest alive, even in the face of, things not going to change too soon or fast enough. But we need to keep trying. There's no option. The option to sit it out is just not in our books.
Yeah, and I want to just add that to Anthony's point. Your question, Anthony, was, is it morally correct, right? I don't believe it is. But now the advocacy part of me says that this is taxation without representation, right? And then what, to Marie's point, is there was a referendum, but how can only half of the island decide that this is not what they want? So what does that tell us? Why are we wishy-washy with this? It's not like it was over 60%, right? It was almost 50-50, almost split down the middle. And it kind of goes to the point where even when this last administration was voted in, we were almost half the nation agreed with him. So it kind of tells you where are we going with this? What's the mindset behind it, right? The current governor, many people are displeased with for obvious reasons, right? And that also tells you, but the island voted her in, right? So where are we? Where are we going with this? I don't know.
So let's talk about the Puerto Rican Bar Association. We've covered this. I want to come back to it, but I like to talk about the Puerto Rican Bar Association because many people don't know is I was also president of the Puerto Rican Bar Association in New York, and back in the 80s.
Wow, that's great. That's amazing. That's amazing.
He's been around. He's been around.
Yes.
And you see, I have the Bar Association logo up, 1957. Let me tell you why that is significant. Because outside of Puerto Rico, which of course was established the bar in 1800s, this is the oldest Puerto Rican Bar Association in the country. There's one in Florida, of course, and Illinois as well. But the Puerto Rican Bar was started in 1957, and it really started, although bar associations technically are for professional enhancement, right, of lawyers, it really started as a civil rights movement because it was back then you couldn't vote. They had problems with voting, with access to bilingual education, access to the ballot in Spanish. So there were all sorts of legal issues back then when that Puerto Rican Bar Association members got together. And if you could talk to us a little bit, Lillian, about the Puerto Rican Bar, what you guys do over there.
So thank you for that. First of all, next year will be our 70th Jubilee, our Diamond Jubilee event, which we're even starting to plan it now because we really would like to make it a grand event for a good reason, right? So I'm only here because people like you, Anthony, and the presidents that started this organization knew that there was a concern here. How can we get together and advocate for our people, right? So they came together. I mean, 1957, you made the point right on. You just made that point that at the time we have to figure out what was happening during that time, right? And yes, civil rights movements were going on. Fast forward to 2026, we have an executive director, a full-time executive director now. We're a financially stable organization. We are constantly getting calls with regard to issues arising in our communities that are looking for advocacy from our attorneys, and we're there all the time. And part of it is really taking the lead many times when no one else wants to, when sometimes judges can't, right? We have judges that are part of our organization, but there are times that they cannot take a stance. But
judicial activity with the judiciary, what do you do with that?
Say again?
Activity with the judiciary about getting someone on the bench.
Oh, so we recently wrote a paper last year discussing how our current judiciary in New York does not reflect the diversity of the community that they serve. So and as did Judge Sally Manzanet Daniels, she wrote her own separate judiciary report, and we followed her lead. Our numbers are not there. We are very supportive of judicial candidates. We are writing letters of recommendation to support our judicial candidates whenever possible. And it's sad that we're still struggling with that, right? It's 2026 and we still don't have a judiciary that is representative of the Latino community. So we're still working on that. And it's still an uphill battle, but we're still working on it.
Yeah, and so that people don't know, in New York, judges, some judges are appointed, but most judges have to run for office, and they run for 14-year terms, and then they have to seek support. And how do you get support? Since New York, for the most part, is a Democratic state, at least in New York City, right? You have to get support of a political party in order to get to the ballot, because judges run on a partisan ballot. So without political support, you're just not going to get judges on that bench. And so it's inevitable that the lawyers have to get involved in politics in order to affect the representation on the bench and affect an opinion that the kind of cultural opinion that is important on that. That's important. And Marie, when you were president of the Puerto Rican Bar of Florida, you also had a similar committee, right?
Correct. And I believe the current Puerto Rican Bar Association of Florida has the same thing. Whenever election season comes around, midterms or general elections, or there's an election that requires selecting judges. The difference in Florida is that judicial races are nonpartisan. But we do the same thing. We interview, actually, our Judiciary Committee interviews candidates. We I don't want to misspeak for the current board, but we do send letters of recommendation or endorsements. We talk to each and every candidate, and we see how they stand on Latino community issues. And I believe the board doesn't issue those endorsements or those letters of recommendation freely. We need to see a commitment from the candidates, regardless of their politics, because it is a nonpartisan race. But we really need to see how would they approach specific issues within their communities if they're appointed or if they're elected, how they would approach even clerkships. Do you believe that you would be accepting Latino candidates as a clerk in your office? Basic things that would give us a hint as to how knowledgeable they are or how in tune they are with the issues that affect our specific community.
Well, guys, I like to, if we could switch now a little bit, we've covered it. I like to talk a little bit more about what is coming soon. This moot court competition. Marie, I wonder if you could just give us how it's done. Just tell us the structure, the sending out invitations, the schools. How does it get done?
Yes, we started inviting law schools from across the country and the law schools in Puerto Rico to participate in this event. And we have a deadline coming up in August for them to register. And it's a very low registration fee compared to other competitions out there. But we are trying to incentivize them, the schools and moot court teams, to select our competition as one of the many that they decide to participate in during the year. We're trying to convince sponsors such as bar associations across the different states to sponsor students so they could make the trip, especially with the cost of gas and plane tickets these days, so that we can have hopefully about 20 teams participate. We are trying to gather judges or clerks of courts or attorneys that are interested in serving as judges, volunteer judges to, help us judge the rounds of the moot court competition. And we're going to be holding those September 18 and 19 here in Orlando. And hopefully we will, emerge with a winning team that will be, the champions. But it takes a bit of coordination and support. So we're on a daily basis trying to reach out to our community of attorneys and judges for support so that we could make this happen.
So it's a big job inviting the schools and the coordinating who's going to argue. But for people like Steve, Steve has not been to a moot court competition, so he doesn't know what are we talking about.
Because I would love to. Are you kidding me?
But how does that work? Look, explain, Marie, how the students get the question. What are they doing? What are they litigating? How does it technically work? So that the people out there can understand. Well, you as lawyers, we know how moot court operates, but the people out there do not. How does that work?
We gave the students and all of the teams a prompt with a hint of what the problem is going to be like or about this year. And it deals with the representations that the United States made to the United Nations about Puerto Rico's colonial status and whether those representations to the United Nations conflict with the very basic United States Constitution and laws that have, or cases rather, that have been decided up until present. If there's a conflict between what they said we were not a colony, and what the United States Supreme Court decisions have said. So there will be a problem or a fake case that the students are going to have to argue for each side. And in one round, they might argue for the plaintiff. On the other side, they might argue for the defense. So they will have to know every possible argument and counter argument. That is the legal exercise for them. For the public and whoever wants to attend, they will be learning about the mock problem by listening and saying, hey, that citizen in that fake situation could well be me, because I have a cousin, an uncle, an auntie, a parent that is actually going through a similar problem. And really, this is how it could be decided in court. So hopefully that will be an exercise for people to know a little bit more, learn a little bit more about the situation. And, out there as a plain citizen, people might say, I don't get into politics. That's just, I don't like to discuss politics. But the reality is politics is inside everything that we do, affects everything that we do as citizens in our daily lives. And so by having that application of like a problem that's not real, but has very real elements of legal arguments, it hopefully will resonate in people's minds. And even if you don't have a legal education, you will walk away with an understanding of why this issue is important and how it could affect me in the future if we don't continue to push the civil rights issue with the courts and with Congress.
You got that, Steve?
Yes, sir, I sure do. Let me tell you, I've learned a lot in the time that we've been with this, and I was unaware, okay, that even though the elections in Puerto Rico take place, they don't have the right to be what they would like to be because it's up to the Congress, and that took me by surprise because at the time, I didn't know that much, but now I know a little bit more. And the fact that the moot court, I think is going to be great, is because the plaintiff, which I imagine would be the Puerto Ricans that would like to have an argument when it comes to the status of Puerto Rico, which has been going on for years. Okay. My family, I explained that to Tony, having a little bit to do with Luis Muñoz Marin when it came to creating that commonwealth that now the island lives under. But I think that, like you say, it should be up to the Puerto Rican people to be able to decide what is that they want. If it's independence, if it's state, or is it a commonwealth? A commonwealth question would be for who? Because the only one that benefits in the Commonwealth, I believe, is the United States when it comes to the money that Puerto Rico brings in that Commonwealth. I understand that, they say Puerto Rico could not be self-dependent, something that I don't think is true because the Puerto Rican is very resourceful.
Listen, I invite everyone, those of you particularly who are not lawyers, all right, who are intrigued by this, go to the website, PRBA National Conference. On there, I actually have prior moot court competitions posted. So you can see Florida A&M going against Cornell, Florida, University of Florida versus other schools. You'll see some of the competitions, how the students operate. And it's fascinating because I remember, as I'm sure Marie does, when we the first one, and all of a sudden you see the law schools get up, your students stand up there and start talking about Puerto Rico. Wow, it really was like, powerful to me to know that we did it. We got this thing done, and people are students. By the way, most, I would say, of the first court was 4 teams. And so there was two students on each team. By the way, every college, every law school has a moot court team, right? So this is something that goes on across the country, and they all compete against each other. There's never, though, is it about Puerto Rico. It's all about some other issue, bankruptcy law, family law, or something like that, but not about Puerto Rico. Ours is about Puerto Rico. Every question always is about Puerto Rico, right? One aspect or another. So it's fascinating to see them all of a sudden, non-Puerto Ricans, all right, getting up there talking about the territorial clause and the bilateral compact, all the stuff that holy smokes, here they are. Now, we've had up to 15 law schools participate in the past. I am hopeful and praying that this year we hit 15 in one, at least 15 in this one shot. And as we keep going, it'll grow. Now that I'm retired, I'm going to dedicate myself to this, Maria. And so I'm hoping that we make this literally a civil rights issue for the country, and we train people on this issue of Puerto Rico for the coming years. And By having continuous cooperation of the bar associations of New York, Illinois, Florida, and Puerto Rico, we can continue to network with each other. Because I know, Lillian, you've got to have clients that are in Puerto Rico and clients that are in Florida, and I have clients from New York and in Puerto Rico, and so we exchange, we have business cards, we know each other, we get to know each other and work with each other. From a professional point of view, the conference has value. And we'll be talking about a little bit more in future CLE courses. I'm going to be teaching a course this year. I teach at Florida A&M Law School. I teach voting rights and gerrymandering and the whole Civil Rights Act. So I'm going to add a course for CLEs this year on the effect of the Civil Rights Act and the decision Klassen that just came out of the Supreme Court, basically gutting Civil Rights Act. I'm going to CLE course on that. We have a course coming in on forensic accounting. Our CPA is putting that one thing, forensic accounting for lawyers. And of course, we have the old course on the constitutional status of Puerto Rico. And we'll have one on professional liability. What does AI mean to us now? Thank God I'm out of this thing, but I do not envy the young lawyers who have to compete with AI as to whether or not they can write a brief or not. My God. But that's also part of the conference. So we'll be discussing that more in the future. We're going to be closing up in a couple of minutes. So Lillian, if I would give you any closing comments or something you would like to say about New York and the Puerto Rican Bar New York, or the participation in the conference.
So I'm glad to be a part of reinvigorating the moot court competition. And I'm looking forward to our New York law students attending and participating and us supporting them, of course. I'm hoping that we get enough attention that Congress takes notice. I really do. I hope that they start questioning themselves. But we're in a really hard time right now. I think this particular administration makes it difficult to put ourselves forward enough. And but I think that we have to keep talking about it. We have to keep pursuing it, and really shaming people for not doing the right thing. Going back to your moral observation, right? It's not morally correct to do what the United States is doing. So I'm hopeful that it will get enough attention that Congress truly decides to take action.
We're going to have to get some of your assistance with Nydia Velasquez.
She's I think retired now.
Has she retired? Oh,
this year. Yeah, she's being honored all over the place.
She's been an obstacle to Darren Soto's bill. I mean, just to know, but I'll talk about politics. But Darren's got a bill that he's proposed every year that gives Puerto Rico the option, a congressionally mandated option. So Congress gives Puerto Rico the option, and Puerto Rico will have an option, and that becomes mandatory on Congress, as opposed to what's been happening, where Puerto Rico has a plebiscite. It means nothing because it's not congressionally approved. So, but that's the kind of stuff that we, as lawyers, we as influencers in our community, need to do. Marie, how about you? A closing statement.
Well, I'd like to bring just to take off of what Lillian said. I'd like to bring attention to our congressional leaders. I know we do have the support of Congressman Soto. That's always been there, constant. But the others on the other side and in other states, I'd like for them to take notice, because at the end of the day, the students and ourselves as attorneys and the general public that attends our event are all constituents, right? And they have to listen to us. They have to know that the issues that matter to us have to matter to them. Ultimately, we decide if they're holding their seats or not. So hopefully we will bring attention where we could really make some significant impact.
And Steve, we have Congressman Soto scheduled on a conference, to talk about his bill, but we also have to talk about gerrymandering, because in Florida, despite the constitutional amendment prohibiting political gerrymandering, the Florida legislature has gerrymandered him out. They've taken his base and split it up. and added many more rural counties, rural precincts to his seat in order to eliminate the number of Puerto Ricans that are in his seat. So he's going to have an interesting conversation about gerrymandering, about Puerto Rico, and what the legislature has been planning is trying to eliminate his seat. So we're going to have an interesting conversation, and I'd like to have your opinion now. Having gone through with 3 lawyers, how was your day today?
Every day you learn something new. Okay. First of all, I want to thank you, ladies, Marie and Lillian, for being in our show, for being part of the show. These doors are open to you at any time, any day, at any hour. You know how to get a hold of Tony. We appreciate what you're doing. We encourage you to continue, and anything that we can do in our side to help you accomplish the goal, which is important. Okay, we are here, and we will always be here. I almost kicked the bucket, but I'm here, you know. But I want to thank you for being in the show. I want to thank you for taking the time not only to be here, but to do what you do. I think it's important. I think it's great. It's more than we need to get more people involved. Right now we're working in the East Coast. We need to go to middle of the country and then visit the West Coast and expand this idea, because there's a Puerto Rican everywhere. And we have Puerto Ricans in the Senate. We have Puerto Ricans in the Congress. We have Latinos in the Senate. We have Latinos in the Congress. And we should get them involved. How are we going to do that? I'm going to leave that to Tony, who's the one with the connections. Okay? And then we'll put him in here. But ladies, I'm honored to have met you through this show. Hopefully we'll meet face to face and the moot court, because I'm going to get up there too.
Great.
Now,
Thank you.
I'm going to be around with a microphone, taking pictures, talking to people, because I think this is very important. I think it's great that we are focusing on what needs to be important. And like Lillian was saying, we are living in a time where the administration that we are under is not allowing room for anything else to be addressed, because we are too busy with all the smoke curtains.
Well, we're too busy with making Canada the 51st state or Cuba the 51st state. Forget about Puerto Rico being the first.
Venezuela. Don't forget Venezuela, okay?
All right, man. Guys, thank you so much. You've been listening to the Equal Justice and podcast of the National Puerto Rican Bar Association Conference. Thank you all. God bless, and I'll see you next week. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Be well.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.